Hello, everybody. Today, we're looking at an after show for one of the Hovind debates, and I don't want to make this clickbait, so Hovind himself isn't in here. Snake was right, or Taylor had a fantastic debate against Hovind. I will link that in the comments below because it's definitely worth a watch if you like debates. Taylor did an amazing job, especially on the algae that became multicellular. Chlamydora Reinhardti, I want to say something like that. Please don't quote me on that. But no, he did a fantastic job, and this is the after show where we discussed what we're seeing, what we see in the debate, what went down. But I'll include both links because I wasn't there for the entire discussion. But I'm throwing this up because it was a very interesting discussion, and I really did enjoy talking to Snake Was Right and Grayson and Ian Chen and all of these guys. I think Leo was in there. Leo Filius was in there. But yeah, some great discussions on the subject of the evolution debate and Hovind's tactics and what he likes to do. But this isn't really a rumble as such, but I do hope you enjoy.
Thing that Kent, it's like it's a special Kent thing.
Sorry, Snake. I just finished my stream. I would have sent people over as a raid if I'd known you were on. That's my apologies, mate. That's okay.
What were you?
I did see you streaming. I did see the start of the debate, but I like the very start, but I had to stream, so I do apologize. I will watch it though, absolutely.
I watched your debate with him for the prep.
Got a question for Mark here.
My debate with him? Which one?
I think the one you just jumped on.
A more recent one.
Not the
when I dropped in.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I really gave him a hard time on that one.
That was a really good one.
Oh, the one that AJ reviewed?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, Mark, you had me cracking up, man. I was like, yes. Yeah, every time you would say something and like you would, and I loved it. Mr. Hovind. I loved it. There's subtle little digs like that, which it's not really a dig because it's true. He's Mr. Hovind. But I love that you'd interrupt him and be like, nope, I'm sorry. That's just that's not how this works. You're kind of just deflecting away from the question I just asked you. I absolutely loved it. I was watching that like, oh fuck yes. I was getting a little chub.
Oh wow, that's what I live for, Leo. Your question is how often is Hovind in there? He's not usually in there. Like it used to be very rare for him to be in here. I've seen him twice in there. Recently. I think it's because he's lost his YouTube channel and he's trying to piggyback to get that momentum back for what's his new one, the Genesis Church one or something.
So he's got the Dr. Dino one too.
Yeah.
He's got two of them right now.
Dr. Dino.
He was actually he was streaming on Dr. Dino last night.
Okay. Well, I think he's trying to use it to gain momentum again, kind of thing. He's trying to use it to piggyback off of him. And of course, praise is all for it because, he gets a lot of views off of Kent going in there.
And
of course.
I'm sorry, I was away from my desk when Lorraine left. Bye.
Oh, she's back.
I'm
sorry, we didn't.
Didn't take long.
Hey. I didn't. Because they had the thing over your name, so I couldn't even see it.
Yeah, I don't know why. That's like the one thing StreamYard hasn't fixed is that when you highlight comments, like the shrinking thing where it kind of like shrinks everything. I'm okay with that, but why does it need to get rid of the names? I don't get it. There's no way StreamYard has not been like bitched at consistently for that.
I think Ian Chen has the answer. Come on, Ian, hit us with it.
It's really good to see you, Ian. I feel like I haven't talked to you in ages, mate.
We've never talked face to face. No, we've never talked face to face.
That's right. That's right.
So
we talked.
And I said a couple times, "Hello."
Why am I hearing? Why does it sound like either Mark or Ian is having a conversation with themselves right now? What's going on? I'm confused.
What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean.
He's making a joke about you guys sounding the same, but I bet you
we do not sound the same. That's ridiculous.
That's racist. You black and you white people all look the same to me.
Yes, Australian is a race now. Yes.
White people all look the same to me. Black people all look the same to me. There you go.
The race of the future.
Did you know? And that's
There was
coincidental.
1.5
because
billion of it.
that is coincidental, Ian, because I look the same to me as well.
Well, the funny thing is,
sorry, go ahead, Lou.
No. Go, Mark. Go.
Well, it's a tangent. So if yours is more connected to what
I don't think mine is.
All right. Well, yeah. Today on my stream, I was talking about like 30 people in New South Wales did an anti-LGBTQI parade down the street, reciting the Lord's Prayer and stuff. Yeah, I know. It's just, and the police are like by the side of them in case some gay bear wants to beat the crap out of them or whatever. They had to protect them. But just these freaking idiots. And there was only 30 of them. It was basically a classroom amount full of these morons, like, protesting that people are gay. It's like, what are you guys doing? Seriously.
Did you tell them that they were like a few weeks too late for the Mardi Gras?
New South Wales.
Yeah,
what can you say, man? New South Wales.
Well, I mean, if they went to the Mardi Gras, there'd be 30 people in a sea of, 100,000. So that's not the impact they want to make. You know what I mean? Like, Sorry, Lorraine, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
I want to ask you a question, though. How do protests go in Australia? I know how to go here in America, so how do they go in Australia with those sort of...
How do they go? I'm not sure what you mean.
How do they play out?
About the same as America, but
Without the fear of gun violence, what's it like?
No, we don't have guns.
It's very similar, except
Yeah.
no one gets shot.
Brief answer. Brief.
Yeah, well, I mean, the protests have been on a fair bit, actually. They had the climate extinction protests and things like that. Usually they're pretty orderly and nothing really goes wrong.
We had some violent ones during the anti-mask, anti-vaxxers protesters, at least in Melbourne. I don't know if you had it in Perth.
Well, they were anti-vaxxers, so I'm not surprised they were violent.
Not at all. Like there was only like...
Horses got beaten up. They were hitting the police horses.
Yeah. Well, not in WA, no. In WA, there was... I mean, people did protest sort of the mandates, but there was nothing to them.
To answer your question, Lorraine, is we don't have guns, so we don't have the threat of gun violence, and people don't run over each other's in cars, so we don't have that either.
Well, but there's also another factor that I would wonder if you guys have in Australia. Do you have motivated militarized police forces that will stir up violence?
No.
Okay, yeah. See, we do here in the United States. We do have motivated militarized police forces that will stir up violence.
The police here are, I mean, they can be out of line, and there is, there's problems with corruption in police, like everywhere, kind of thing. But the police generally take sort of a back seat and sort of go, unless you're actually disturbing people. The police don't give enough of a shit over here, quite frankly. They don't care that much. Unless you're actually disturbing the peace or doing something horrendous, they just don't care. They more just try and make things peaceful than anything else. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think the police are like. I'm not afraid of the police.
That's much better now. Like, I think if you look at the history in Victoria back in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of police shootings.
Yes.
They were probably a little bit too trigger happy. There was people that were being shot because they're being approached by baseball bats or whatever. But,
what was that team? It was the tactical response group.
They had. I can't remember, but we had an issue in my state where police were really trigger happy, shooting people that was approaching them with baseball bats or whatever, and they were dying. So there was a big, massive outroar. There was a big, massive public education and police education program. And since then, I think the police have been very, they've taken a step back. They're not as aggressive, and that we've had this for the last 20 years or so. So. Yeah, maybe take something like that in America, something like shock.
And there's still problems as well. Like Aboriginal deaths in custody is still a fucking problem. Like that happens way too often, and it's unnecessary. And there's problems, but I think Australia has sort of the political will to address some of these problems and go, hey, we need to do something about that. So
you said who has the will?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Australian people.
Australia. Okay. At first, I thought you said American people. I was like, no, he had to have said Australian.
Australian people.
Yeah.
Question: out of curiosity, what year? I know there was quote unquote equivalent of a Sandy Hook that
1996.
Australia had?
1996
What
in
year?
Tasmania. 1996 in Tasmania. 26 people were killed, and at that time was the highest mass murder. Obviously, you Americans have blown that out of the water, but back then it was the highest in the world. 26 people.
I think it still is the highest in the world.
No. There's like 50 something of that. Las
Really?
Vegas shooting died. Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
the one at the gay nightclub. I think I don't know if it beats the Las Vegas one, but I know the one at the. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter that it's a gay nightclub. But the one at the nightclub in Orlando was, I think, and I don't know if this was all people killed or the total of killed plus injured. But it might be the latter. But that was like 50-something people, at least killed plus injured.
The Pulse Club.
I thought Las Vegas. I thought the one in Las Vegas was that the one in Mirage. I thought
that's the guy with the gun from the building.
Yeah, I think Mirage, right?
Like 52 people or something. I don't know. That number seems to ring a bell.
I wanted to say really quickly something that Ian suggested is that like the United States could take similar measures. Or that it might take like a shocking instance for the United States to take similar action to like what Australia has done with respect to the police. While I think that has happened in other countries, I think that has not happened in the United States. And what leads me to believe that is when I look back at how the police treated black people throughout the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, even the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even today. When I look at things like Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, all of these things, and yet fucking nothing is done because in this country, the police are effectively an extension of the military. That's really what they are. They are not designed to keep the peace. They are not designed to rein in crime. They are designed to protect the power and property of the very, very wealthy and very, very powerful. That is what they do. And that is why I say, personally, abolish the police.
Well, absolutely. Am I pronouncing your name right? Leophile?
Leophilius.
Yeah, right.
You can just call me Leo.
Absolutely right. When we get the SCOTUS ruling that the police do not have to protect, they have no obligation to protect.
2 times the Supreme Court has ruled that. I think it is, isn't it?
They are only here to support the law. That is all police are here for.
To serve and support. That's what it is.
I think I might be mistaken, but I think it's 2 times the Supreme Court has ruled that the goal of law enforcement in the United States is not to protect and serve communities, but is to uphold the law regardless of what the law is. And there have been several instances in states where like either state Supreme Courts or I think maybe one circuit court has even ruled exactly the same thing. Like the system has made it explicitly obvious what the purpose of police in the United States is. I don't know how people look at this and say, oh, well, that's not true.
Qualitative immunity.
Capital.
Qualitative immunity.
I get that I don't live there, and I get that you know, the systems are completely different. I get that between Australia and the US, but I don't see abolishing the police as being particularly useful, like just getting rid of all of them, if that's what you're suggesting. I think that the system can be changed to reflect, like Ian Chen was talking about, like, you know, we had a problem with these cops in Victoria and the policies changed with enough political will. I don't think that the US is beyond saving in that respect. I don't think that you can.
Well,
I think that
we could rebuild it from the ground up, but we'd have to change the way it's structured. It's structurally unable to stand on its own. Our police literally are able to just, they don't have to do anything to help people. Yeah.
They literally don't have a constitutional duty to protect.
Yeah, it's like at least here in the United States,
should be changed.
Because the formal processes, like for the United States to, this is also the same reason why people who think that like the Democrats could abolish the Second Amendment is fucking stupid. Because whether you wanted to abolish or add an amendment to the Constitution, like formally in the United States, would just be so like the country is so fucking divided. There's no fucking realistic way either of the two is going to happen any fucking time soon. So that's the main reason. It's not that the Constitution can't be changed. It's just that this culture, society in the U.S. is such that it does not meaningfully furnish that at all.
Now, when 50% of the population, nearly 50% of the population is voting for Donald Trump, how do you explain that?
That's disturbing.
Well, I think there are,
and it's even more disturbing that your choice may be Donald Trump or Joe Biden. That's disturbing because Joe Biden seems non-compos mentis to me, like he seems barely there, to be honest with you. But I'd take him over Donald Trump any day of the week, quite frankly. Like, I would rather somebody in like him. Donald Trump is a nightmare. But
well, we might have DeSantis instead. So.
I'd rather Trump than DeSantis. 8 days out of the week and twice on Sundays.
Really? I don't know much about DeSantis, to be honest with you.
You want to know why?
Oh,
Donald Trump was used by the system. Ron DeSantis is a part of the system. That's why. Donald Trump is an incompetent fool who cares about his ego. Most of what flowed from the Trump administration had abso-fucking-lutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. It was Stephen Miller. It was Mitch McConnell. It was all these other people. Donald Trump just took credit for this. It won't be the same with DeSantis. DeSantis is coordinated where Donald Trump was not. DeSantis is a part of the system where Donald Trump was not. DeSantis is an actual full-on fucking fascist, whereas Donald Trump was just an incompetent fool who would say and do whatever he could because he thought it was going to maximize his ego. I would 100% take Donald Trump over Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Like I said, I don't know a lot about him.
Yeah, I can't say I honestly care so much about American politics, but Trump would just be funny. I remember the days when he was president. I'd wake up and read the news and just have a giggle. It was quite entertaining.
It was a little scary.
I miss those days. Hasn't been funny.
Actually delayed coming out until after the Trump administration. Is that weird?
Why is that?
No.
I'd probably still be in the closet if he had won a second term.
Yeah.
Because he
literally
policies, or I don't know,
ways that did not sort of encourage the LGBT.
We are only 4 votes away from reversing our right to LGBTQ marriages.
Yeah.
I think you guys just recently voted that in. It was a fairly recent thing in America, wasn't it?
2014, wasn't it?
2012,
2014. That like Obama officially legalized gay marriage, something like that.
It's been established at the state level for most states for a while before that, but not too long. I think some of them were in the 2000s.
It's fairly recent in Australia, was it?
And then Obergefell. I can't remember when that came. That was 2015. So yeah.
Where was it for Australia, Mark? 2017, I think we made it legal.
What
gay
legal?
Gay marriages.
Oh yeah, maybe a 2016. I think it was very recent. Yeah,
it was pretty recent, guys, but it was a massive, overwhelming support for it. It's like it was 80+%.
Yeah,
so
I remember marching in a protest for it. I was on the street for it. Yeah,
we made it part of our education system in the 1800s, I think.
No, you're right. December 2017. Yeah,
2017.
Just saying. Public school in UK, very far advanced.
Public school? Isn't that a church school?
No, public school is like a private school, what you call a private school.
Then,
so what's a real public school in the UK then?
Well, like Oxford, Cranmer.
Oxford's not privately owned.
Yes, that's what they mean in this country. Public schools are the top of the.
So public means private. See, this is what I don't understand. You guys invented the fucking language, and now public means private. What is this shit? And we let these people walk around and like have passports and stuff.
Sorry, Mark.
Don't ask them for chips.
What do you mean by public schools? Because usually public schools are owned and run by the government, not by. I wouldn't call our university system public schools. They're definitely privately owned.
Are you talking about a state system, Simus?
No, it's not state. They're privately owned schools, and they're called public schools. Our state system schools are called comprehensive or grammar schools sometimes.
Grammar.
Yeah, I literally just Googled it from Project Britain. A public school is an independent secondary school. This is speaking of about the United Kingdom. A public school is an independent secondary school. Public schools in England are not run by the government.
That's correct.
The fuck?
I don't know how they're public.
How are they public then?
It's counterintuitive.
They're run not for profit, I would assume.
Who runs the public schools then? Who runs the public schools?
They're run for profit? They are for profit?
Eton.
Okay, so they're just not public schools.
Probably one of the oldest schools in the country, and it's been private for a long, long time. I think probably because the school system started so long ago.
Taxpayers don't pay for public schools?
No. From Wikipedia, in England and Wales, a public school is a type of free charging private school originally for older boys. They are public in the sense of being open to pupils irrespective of locality, denomination, or paternal trade or profession. In Scotland, a public school is synonymous with a state school in England and Wales. Free charging schools are typically referred to as private or independent schools.
Yeah,
where do they get their funding from?
Basically, the school started so long ago that back in the day, back in the 1400s, right, there was no such thing as a public sector. So the word public had a different meaning.
I think it's clear that it's the Australians and the Americans that perverted the English language. So this is obviously the real definition of English.
Right.
Hey, but Leo, can you show me your public parts?
King's English.
Leo, show us your public parts.
Exactly.
What?
So in the USA, I know that we owe our public school system to the church.
I got it, Ian.
To the Puritan church, actually.
Yeah, I got it.
To the what? Wait, what? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
to which church?
The puritanical churches of Massachusetts. Who was it? Cotton Mathers, the Salem witch trial guy. He did this. What was it called? It's something Satan doctrine or whatever. That not having educated population is a sin. That ignorance is a sin. So they required everybody to go to public school so that they could go to Harvard, which was also his school. So that's the history of the public school in the U.S. Because it started with a model based on the colony in Massachusetts, and it spread through the rest of the colonies, and that was built. All the other systems of local schoolhouses was built on that model. Any town with more than I think it was 50 people was required by colony at the time, by colony law, to have a school for the students to attend for basic grammar.
You want to know another really interesting fact about the United States? Well, I just completely forgot what it was. Wow. What the fuck was I just going to say?
They smoke a lot of weed, is that?
I'm sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say right as I was taking a hit. That's the funny part.
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing notable about the United States. It's fine.
And nobody interrupts me when I get to go, and it's so crazy.
I remembered. The United States Postal Service system is actually outlined by the U.S. Constitution. And so one thing that I like to do personally when I'm talking to conservatives or people opposed to public institutions broadly is ask them if they think that having a state run, which it's really quite frankly more of a communally run or a municipally run system, because at the end of the day, who is it that's at your U.S. postal office in the U.S.? It's not some government agent. It's Sue, who lives 3 houses down. That's how it works. Anyway, I'll always ask them, like, so do you think that this is a meaningful system to have for people? Like this extremely cheap, if not practically costless ability to send letters and mail and stuff like that. Usually I get, yes, that is a meaningful system. And I always ask, don't you think that it would be equally meaningful to do the same thing with like healthcare or education? And that's usually when I see, or rather hear, things start clicking and gears starting to rotate. And then it's just like, oh, okay.
I was curious, real quick, before we move to another topic. In Australia, do you all put that extra I in aluminum?
Yep.
Aluminium.
Aluminium, yeah.
Aluminum.
Well, that's what the guy who invented it.
Wait,
called it.
do you guys
Like,
put the extra
the
U
person
in
that discovered it.
phosphorus?
And color and honor. Yep.
And armor.
Yeah. I still spell
C-O-L-O.
phosphorus with an extra U.
Yeah, well, the aluminium, the guy that invented it said it was aluminium, but that doesn't fit with the naming standard of all the other elements. So, you know, helium.
It's funny because it actually does. Because aluminum is just UM at the end, NUM. Aluminium, gallium, germanium, selenium, helium, beryllium, lithium, sodium, magnesium. So aluminium is technically more accurate. But Americans are dumb.
Damn, was that off the top of your head?
After the first four, I had to look to my right and look at my periodic table. But I brought the first four from memory.
I love that Leo
maybe
has
it's the other way
periodic
around.
table.
I read somewhere that one of the spellings of it was to keep with the convention of all the other elements, kind of thing, like you pointed out. So maybe
it was originally coined as aluminum, and then they changed it. They said, "Hey, this doesn't fit with the rest of them. Let's change it."
So I got it the
I
reverse way around here. Okay.
It's the same reason.
Hey, yeah. And they said, "Hey, US, do you want to change this word because we're updating?" They're like, "Nah, we're good." And so we're same reason, like the like I think Leo was about to say about the metric system. But go ahead, Leo.
No, I was gonna say it's the same reason why I think that molybdenum should be molybdenium.
Oof.
Why the fuck is it not molybdenium instead of molybdenum?
Well, you convinced me with the aluminium, but molybdenum is going too far there.
That's not too far now.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be Californium?
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 Why isn't it like?
It is, yeah, Californium.
Like, if this is the
Americium?
standard, though, then why is it like mercurium or ironium?
Oh, there you go.
I don't know. Because I think those come from a different. I think there are older elements that come from a different convention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hydrogen.
They're just they're grandfathered. Then is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was talking to Beamsy a while back, and he was telling me that the funniest mineral composition is a mineral called Cummingtonite.
Nice.
Yeah, everybody says coming tonight, and the funny thing is I just prefer to pronounce it coming tonight rather than coming tonight. That way, people don't,
it was named after where it was found in the 1800s, which was Cummington in the United Kingdom.
Cummington Night?
Yes.
Huh.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think we've all.
And they didn't have our
particular
way of describing things in the 1800s. So, yeah, it's named after Cummington. So they didn't do it as a joke. It was just a very unfortunate etymology of words, really.
We all appreciate Cummington.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm looking at the periodic table right now, and like half these elements all end in eum. Like, what the fuck? Like, let's just it's like the other thing that just fucks with me hard in particle physics. You have protons, neutrons, electrons, leptons, bosons, photons, gluons, and then there's quarks. What the fuck is a quark? Then there's quarks.
They're just quirky.
Why don't we call them chromons?
Really?
Because quantum chromodynamics. And then they don't call them
the weird naming of quantum dynamics, and you're not going to talk about like the properties of quarks, like,
That's what I'm saying, though.
And
yeah, it comes from a book. It comes from a book that he really liked.
Yeah, the guy that first discovered. I don't even remember which cork was it. The top cork? No, I don't think it was.
But he was
No.
pretty quirky though.
Which cork was it? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
That's bad. That's a thing I should know. I should know which cork was the first cork discovered. I'm about to
Which
find
is your
out.
favorite quark, the top quark or the bottom quark?
So
I don't have a
if
favorite
it ends
quark.
in "ite," is it always a compound?
I don't like calling it a bottom quark. No, I don't
What's
get
the
that.
pro-
It's a versatile
I was
quark.
gonna tell a chemistry joke, but I wasn't sure if I'd get any reaction.
Oh,
Nice.
hey,
love bad
actually,
jokes.
hold on, guys.
Like it.
I got a good insect joke. Just a minute.
Go on.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. This is gonna bug me.
Okay.
Nice.
Oh, base theory's
Yeah.
on.
Nice.
How the fuck can Google be this fucking
Get on here,
terrible
Grayson.
at,
Get on
like,
here.
giving answers? Like, it says, so I typed in which quark was the first discovered, and this is what I get first from CERN. In 1964, two physicists independently proposed the existence of the subatomic particles known as quarks, but it doesn't tell me which fucking one! There's 6 of them, you morons! Which one was found first? Like, how is this hard, dude? I don't get
Weren't they
How
theorized?
can it just say this one quark was the one that was first found in this year? Like, this isn't difficult. I don't understand how humans have just shitty fucking technology. I don't get it.
I thought that they were theorized as part of atomic theory way back in the 40s.
Well, I think they were first theorized in the 50s or 60s as
I
a
guess it's
means.
64, did you say?
What did that say? Let me scroll back up. I'm sorry.
I guess I meant
Yeah,
hypothesis.
1964.
Yeah. Okay, my mistake. I'm wrong about most things. That's okay.
Well, I noticed nobody's talking about my debate and praising me.
Well,
I tried to.
I was
did
I
was
try
didn't
gonna
say
say-
it, but you did amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh,
How
thank
did he
you.
get back?
Thank you.
Snake literally rendered his prey speechless.
Thank you.
That's why I go with the constrictor classification. If somebody wants to argue about.
Sorry, go ahead, Bree. Sorry.
No, that's it. That's all I was gonna say. If snake is a
Constrictor.
constrictor, probably a boa of some type.
I like how they don't really. I mean, they constrict, but they don't actually put a lot of pressure on. They just wait for things to breathe out, and then just tighten at that point, and then they can't breathe.
What
they
is
don't
it like
actually crush
constricting your
anything.
snake, Taylor? Like when you constrict your snake, what is it like? Does it go red and angry and purpley?
Let's just say
Does it spit out venom after a while?
let's just say I'm coming tonight.
Spitting,
Yeah, that's
the spitting cobra.
It's as hard as coming
Yeah.
tonight.
That'll get Grayson in here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still think it was a neurotoxin though, because he rendered his prey speechless.
That's hard to do with considering who his prey was.
Hovind has never had a new argument or anything new for ages. I presume it was just, we've never seen a bumblebee come from a horse or some stupid
You've never seen a
thing
dog
like
come
that.
from a mosquito?
Bananas.
We've only ever seen dogs produce dogs.
By the way, I got an answer to my question.
I've only ever seen
What
straw
question?
men produce.
Which quark was the first one discovered? I did actually get an answer. I found the answer to that. There was up and down quarks. They were discovered in 1968 through a process called deep inelastic scattering. I fucking knew that. I'm such a dumbass.
You're so
Yeah.
dumb. You should have known that.
We're ashamed.
I
of
did.
you.
That's the thing. I'm reading and I'm like, wait, but I knew this. Oh God, I'm
Why are
so
you even-
fucking stupid.
Why are you even in here talking about quarks? We don't even know that. You're embarrassing yourself, Leo.
Don't even know what. Wait, you know what quarks are?
I can't trust
What?
anything you say anymore about cosmology.
Yeah, I've totally
I
lost
wouldn't
all
get
faith
Something
in your
something
ability.
basic
Over.
like that, wrong. Just can't trust anyone, mate.
Yeah, I mean, your argument is almost a proof of God, Leo.
I'm
I'll bet.
disappointed.
That's how I
Thank you,
heard about your
Trez.
debate. That's how I heard about it. I got a message from Trez the Lion, and he said it was awesome. So I thought, oh, okay, better go check it out.
He said it was awesome.
Yeah, he said, well, he said it was okay, but
You're
mine
gonna
was
give
better.
Taylor a big
I love
head.
the bit. I
You
love the bit where
odd.
you called him. Oh, that's another thing you've lied about.
What was that?
Yeah,
What was your
it was just
that
what
gloves
was your
off this
best
time.
point?
That was
What was your
great.
best point in the debate, Taylor? What was your coup de grace? I gotta know.
Well, I mean, it's harder to make the case for the comparative anatomy. Like personally, my favorite moment was when he started trying to talk about the multicellular algae, and literally I just had quotes from the paper that refuted his and he said he read the Nature article about the paper and not the paper. So
that was the second time that you brought that up, but I know it's been brought up to him dozens of times before to read that paper. I know, Mark, you brought it up to him at least once, right?
Yes. AJ's brought it up. I've seen him bring it up before.
I've seen Snake bring
Everybody's
it up before,
brought that paper
except
up.
for Ian Chen. What the hell, Ian?
It's always my fault. Hey, I want to shout out to my wife. She just messaged me and said she was on, so I can't see her. But
Hey,
how you doing?
What's
Ian's wife.
What's her name?
Hello.
Actually, I don't know. Her name is Ekaterina, but I don't know what it is on YouTube, to be honest.
Hey, Katharina. Ekaterina.
I do have to say though, one thing I liked about Snake's debate was when Kent said we were talking about comparative anatomy, and Kent said, "Oh, I don't make comparatives."
That's because
made me laugh.
Kent
Your wife
fails.
is the woman in your avatar, right, Ian?
Yeah, that's her. That's her there.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Kent fails miserably with abstract thought. That's one of the things. He is not very good at abstract thought.
So guys, any hints? So mine's coming up April 5th. Thanks to Grayson. I swapped with him and he allowed it. Any hints? Snake? I know, Mark, you've got a lot. You've already debated him last
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Funny.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Mark.
No, I'm good. You go, Taylor.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I just know everything he's gonna say before he's gonna say it. So I'm sure everyone here does too. But
oh, you think that's true, huh? So how would you explain how all of life came from just a rock? Came from rock soup? How do you explain that?
you've never seen any fossil give birth to any fossil. But yeah, I've been changing my tactic a little bit just to go more for the philosophy of science, because it doesn't matter what real evidence you bring up. He's just gonna say you didn't see it happen. So,
and there's also a couple of points. All he's going to be able to bring up are like maybe necessary conditions under which creation could happen, but none that are sufficient. That's going to be one thing. At best, we could grant that we observe necessary conditions for creation. So if somebody brings up like, oh, with the complexity of life, I can say, yeah, sure, that's a necessary condition for design in life. But it's not sufficient for design in life. So I'm gonna need sufficient conditions. What the fuck was the other thing I was gonna say? God damn it! I hate when this happens.
Well, I would say, maybe prepare a response for the polystrate trees he always brings up, because he claims it goes through many layers and layers of coal.
I did.
Oh shit! I remember.
I had a response when he said that in the first debate, and I knew he'd bring it up. And then I said, "Oh, there's a tree out there, Ken. His sole purpose is to replace the oxygen you've wasted. So I suggest after the debate, can you go and find it and just apologize to it?" So I actually had one because I knew he'd say that.
Yeah,
I remembered what I was going to say.
Go on, Leo. You've been very forgetful today.
Go ahead. Then I'll go after you.
Yeah, and no stuff about the heat problem too, because that just, I don't know what the title of your debate is going to be, but the heat problem is just a very simple preclusion of all of creationism. So
yeah, and his response to that is actually hilarious. The ice canopy response it's gold. It's so funny to hear him.
Why are we advising against that? I want to know more about the ice canopy. I don't know what's wrong with you.
So I think I would recommend the heat problem. Because the ice canopy, like Age of the Earth heat problem, and he brings up ice canopy, it is a riot. Like that, you get him to go into the specifics of how ice is magnetic and all of this. It is a laugh.
Think about the wavelengths of light that we would have here on Earth if we had an ice canopy. we wouldn't
Yeah.
have the colors that we have now, or with the colors that organisms have from before. That wouldn't make any sense now.
Yeah.
Can you
And
expand on that to
I'd also
basically
say
the pressure was so high and therefore dragonflies were like 50 feet or something?
yeah.
You were
The
saying?
dragonflies need to be able to distinguish their environments
Because the ice
visibly.
canopy compressed the air and there was so
Can
much
I-
oxygen, everything,
So I'd-
everything became massive. That was his
And
theory.
And I'd also say that the heat problem also doubles as a basically proof of radiometric dating, because if it's wrong, then we have a heat problem.
Well,
But
RATE,
yeah.
they have a RATE project, which is the creation
Yeah.
institution trying to
Yeah,
like
full of
find out
PhDs.
why, how save the model from the heat problem, and they can't
model.
do it. They basically, well, they have to say, the creation model has to say there's something in the future that we'll find that we're unaware of that makes the heat problem be solvable. They can't solve it.
So can I add the
And-
two?
Go ahead.
So the other thing on top of the first thing that I said that I can't remember what that was now, but is that you can also add to that creationism is just straightforwardly underdetermined by the scientific data, because the scientific data is at least equally capable of being accommodated by evolutionary theory. And then that leads into another point you could bring up, that evolutionary theory as a unified model predicts many of these things, whereas creationism does not. There may be some things that one could at least grant that creationism predicts, but it will not predict a variety of things as a unified model. It can accommodate certain things, but it does not directly predict them. And that both of these are going to be very, very strong points against creationism as any sort of meaningful scientific model whatsoever. And then that's just going to call into question its legitimacy.
Yeah, I would have that phrase. That's something I forgot to do tonight, but the basic phrase of kind of like accommodate versus predict.
Hey, Snake and Mark, do you want to see the prop that I have handy for the debate as well?
Yeah.
What
Or save it.
accommodations? What accommodations are you seeing?
Well, no, what I'm talking about at least is that if there's some fact about the world, is there a model that predicts that we should observe this, or does the model merely accommodate that observation? There's a difference between a model that predicts a thing that we observe as a novel prediction and a model that merely accommodates that observation. And what I would argue is that with creationism, it predicts very, very little, if anything at all, and most of it is accommodated. And anything that I could grant that it does predict, it does not predict it as a unified model. And so these are just going to be points against creationism as a scientific model. It's just a bunk model. Yeah,
And
exactly.
Flat Earth. Yeah.
Mark, in your debate,
just one sec. I just want to ask Ian something. Ian, is that supposed to be Donnie? Because if you want it life size, it has to be smaller, mate. You know. Sorry.
I'd like to see like.
No,
a
you're right.
picture.
You're right.
I'd like to see a picture of a cross between Jesus and a dinosaur.
I have a picture
Jesus?
of
You
Jesus
mean
riding a
Raptor
dinosaur.
Jesus?
Yeah,
No,
something
it's
like
Jesus.
Raptor
Jesus?
Jesus, except like obviously a guy with a beard, but with like I don't know, dragon wings on or something.
So Skylar Fiction's already done that. It's called Raptor Jesus.
Well,
There
yeah,
you go.
maybe.
There you go.
Jesus with chicken feet.
Sorry,
Well,
Snake. What were you gonna...
Not quite what I meant, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask out of curiosity though? Do you think all of those creation myths have some sort of accommodation?
Yeah, I think that many of them can accommodate a lot of things. I just don't think that in any way meaningfully supports the model. I'm more of like a Lacatosian predictivist with respect to the philosophy of science. I think what makes a good model is a model that openly and directly predicts things novelly rather than merely accommodating them. So by accommodation, by accommodation here, just really quickly, all I mean is the idea that some model could be made consistent with some set of observations, whereas a model that predicts those observations has, not really in a fundamental sense, but those observations are much, much more important to the model that openly predicts them, rather than the model that can be modified to sort of work with them. And that's the difference between prediction versus accommodation in the philosophy of science.
Yeah, no, I think there's a worse aspect. I mean, you're absolutely right there. I'm not taking away from what you're saying here. But the problem is there are no predictions on the God model, because anything can be accommodated. I mean, there is nothing which couldn't be accommodated when you take into account the supernatural. So,
well, I think I
just think it's pointless even.
I think I would say there are conceptions of theism that do make predictions. I do think that there is a lot of accommodation in these, and that the data at least underdetermines theism. But say classical theism, I think classical theism predicts explicitly a world in which there is no evil. So
that's not what they're going to argue, though, is it? I mean,
well, of course
for
not.
a specific
but that's
theistic God. They're going to say, "Oh no, no."
Well, yeah, but it's probably going to be a classically theistic.
They're going to say this is the creator God.
Yeah, but it's probably going to be a classically theistic God.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. No.
I would think so. Most theists today are classical theists.
Well, they may believe that, but they're not going to argue for it. Right?
Well, but I mean, what they argue for?
Dawkins is a fundamentalist, but you'd never catch him arguing for fucking Jesus, would you?
I don't understand what that has to do. All I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if a classical theist doesn't argue for something that just intrinsically follows from their position. Of course, a classical theist isn't going to accept something like that. If classical theism is true, then there cannot be evil in the world. But that does not entail that isn't a direct prediction. That doesn't directly follow from classical theism.
Yeah, but they're not going to argue for classical theism. And that's my point. They sidestep that as quickly as you can possibly get.
I think they are. I think they would just deny that classical theism predicts a world with no evil. I think that they would just deny that prediction.
Well, I mean, maybe a Calvinist would, but I'm not sure.
I think even a non-Calvinist would, because most Christians I've talked to about this are not Calvinists, and most of them are classical theists, and most of them reject the idea that classical theism predicts that there would be no evil in the world.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, it depends what you mean by classical theism. Then, I mean, yeah,
the idea that there is a singular.
Hang on. I hadn't finished the sentence. I think they modify their idea of the omnis, right, in order to accommodate evil. They modify the idea of the omnis in order to accommodate evil, right? So they say, well, obviously there are limits on the power. Obviously, it's only what's logically possible, and even then, it's according to his nature. Not according to that. And then there are some theists that say shit like, well, omniscience doesn't actually mean knowing everything and all counterfactuals. And some of them do that. Just saying, there's quite a wide variety that don't take classical theism to be what philosophy says it is.
Well, I think most do, though. So all I mean by classical theism is that there is a singular, necessarily existent agent that is all-powerful, all-knowing, and morally perfect, generally considered maximally great. You cannot conceive of a being greater than this being, and it is sovereign over anything that is not, well, it technically would be sovereign over itself, but it's sovereign over everything. And most Christians I talk to on this accept that. Now, with respect to
that sounds like the limited version of the omnis,
With respect, I don't know what you mean by limited version of the I'm not sure what that means. But with respect to what you said, I don't deny that theists are going to try to find ways to make the concept of God within classical theism consistent with the concept of evil. What I'm saying is that their attempts to do so aren't necessarily successful. The fact that there are attempts to do so does not entail that those attempts are successful.
Well, I think it only works under particular definitions of omnibenevolence and omnipotency. So,
well, I just think it works under how those terms are.
Those are the two issues that
classically understood.
They change. Well, I don't think most theists, will argue that way.
Well, I guess I'm not sure what you mean by argue that way. When I define my terms, theists, I think there's even some people in here that would vouch for me that theists agree with it. If I say that, they say, well, when you say God is morally perfect, what do you mean? Well, I mean what the classical theist means, that God always seeks to maximize the good, that out of any decision God makes, it will be the best decision he could make, all things considered, in that situation.
Yeah, okay. So that doesn't mean, though, that
how would
evil
you
doesn't
know?
exist, right? Under that.
That doesn't mean, no, what was that, Simus?
That doesn't mean evil doesn't exist, though, does it?
Well, I don't think that it means that. But see, and this is the thing, the argument from evil is an internal critique. It doesn't matter what position the atheist holds to. You don't even have to necessarily be an atheist to run.
I wasn't even bringing any of that up. So.
Well, but I'm just
what
bringing that up to
relevance that has to what
clarify
I
the
just
idea
said.
that, like, some of the positions that I hold to aren't going to be relevant to the argument from evil. So whether or not I think evil exists doesn't matter to the argument from evil. The theist, particularly the Christian or the Muslim, is going to say that evil does exist.
Well,
And they're also going to say that God is
view on it as
perfect
well.
and God is ase. And then that's just going to entail a contradiction. And I think the contradiction can be easily shown.
Well, I mean, okay. Again, I just think there are a number of ways out of it, and normally it's by limiting.
Well, I think there's
one of
attempts.
these. Yeah, normally it's by limiting what is definitionally meant by the omnis.
I would just
down several different
I'm just
routes
not
of
clear
limiting
what that
any one of the
means.
omnis, or they can say things like, "Oh, well, actually, it's the greater good." So yes, evil exists, but of course, God has chosen a world for which there is the maximum amount of good coming from it.
Well, but then that would just entail that there is no evil in the world, because yes, it does. Actually, it does.
No, it doesn't,
well, let me explain why it does. Okay. So if you have some action that occurs that is being called evil, but this action this action conduces a greater good, such that the greater good cannot possibly occur without the occurrence of this evil first, then it just follows that evil thing itself is what ought to occur, all things considered, in virtue of it being necessary to the conduction of a greater good. And in virtue of that, it is itself a good thing. It's what ought to occur, not what ought not to occur.
Right. So what's meant by evil in this respect, though, is the suffering that humans suffer, not the suffering that God suffers.
Well, God doesn't suffer. Evil is just that which ought not to occur, all things considered.
Well, not according to the theist.
Well, yes, according to the theist. The argument from evil is an internal critique. It's working from the theistic understanding of morality. They're going to say morality is normative. It is prescriptive by God's nature.
Yeah, I've heard
God's nature prescribes what we ought and ought not do as agents.
No.
Yes.
I think evil is the absence of divine.
That's what I'm saying is consistent with privation theory.
Yeah. So anyway, I just think they have several different arguments in that respect.
Of course they do. I agree.
Like I said,
I just don't
normally
think they
it's
work.
by limiting the omnis. So
I'm still not sure what you mean by that.
Okay. Well, we'll go.
I'm genuinely. I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that.
I've had several debates on it, and several times they've said, "Oh yeah, but that's not what it means by omnipotent, right? It's not that he gets to do can do anything. He only can do logical things. It's not what it means by omniscient.
I don't understand how that would be
he knows
limitation,
all
though.
Things, right? It's that he knows all human actions. Oh, and then there's another one that says it's not that he's omnibenevolent in the terms of God not allowing evil to exist. He allows evil to exist. It's just he knows what the ultimate good is. Right? So all of these arguments have been put forward to me in debates about the problem of evil.
That's fine. I don't think that bears on the truth of anything that I'm saying. Most theists that I speak to are going to say that omniscience entails that God knows all true propositions, and all counterfactually true propositions, Like if you're talking to say like a Molinist like William Lane Craig, they would say that omnipotence is defined as that God can actualize any logically consistent state of affairs, and they're going to define moral perfection as God's seeking to always maximize the good. God always wants and always does the best thing to do, all things considered, in any situation. And when I've ever had a discussion with this, and I could be wrong, but again, I think like Bree and maybe Mark would vouch for me on this, theists tend to agree with me on that. And when I read the literature on what classical theism is, and I listen to other classical theists out there, William Lane Craig, amongst others, how I'm understanding these things seems to be how they're understanding it. I'm not denying that theists don't try to like redefine terms or that they don't have arguments. I'm just saying I don't think any of this really works. It doesn't defeat the argument.
Well, there you go.
You're supposed to say respond after that.
One of us has got to
Over.
stop talking, so you know it may as well be me. I've said
Well,
what
hey
I needed to
everyone,
say,
Snake,
so.
thanks for having me on.
Oh,
Hey, Grayson.
Yeah, I
Hey,
heard.
Grayson.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about your debate, but I haven't gotten a chance to check it out yet. But I will. But I did have a question for you.
It's up on my channel, so
Okay, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be sure to check it out there.
Yeah.
Everyone
I'll
gives
watch it
Snake
there.
the views for that, even if you saw it live. I think it's probably going to be worth a rewatch. But
I watched it live on Snake.
yeah.
nice.
Is that is that the Kaaba stone on your profile?
Yes, it is. It's from a new video that I put out today. That's like just sort of talking about where did the Kaaba stone come from. That ties in some interesting bits of history. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, and I thought I also kind of made a good profile just because I'm not at my computer at the moment. But yeah, I had a question for you, if that's all right.
Yeah.
About
Well,
today,
can I,
about tonight's
before you
debate.
do, can I ask you about the Kaaba stone a second? So that's the bit in the middle, not that. Is that silver around it?
The black stone, yeah, it's a silver mounting.
The black
It's at
stone.
like
Okay.
the corner of that big cube
Okay.
in
Interesting. Thank
Mecca.
you.
Yeah. If you want to learn more about it, I mean, I do go pretty in depth on the video. It gets pretty wild. Start talking about all kinds of wild, strange topics. But yeah, Snake.
Okay.
For tonight's debate, I know that you've debated like Kent multiple times in the past, and as someone that has also done that, I can relate.
Mhm.
And so, since I have a debate coming up with Ken, I want to ask where your headspace was at for your debate tonight. Basically, like, what kind of did you approach it with to try to make it, different or unique, or to try to really like drive home from like past debates a certain point, or what were your kind of your goals for tonight's debate, and then like how do you think that it went with that in mind?
Yeah, so especially with Kent, he just ignores any real evidence you give him. So
Yeah.
this time I kind of just was like, screw it, I'm not really gonna give well, I've given him the evidence before, so it's like, and I try and do something different every time. So this one I wanted to just focus on the philosophy of science. Is it scientific to make declarations about things that we haven't actually observed like directly? So that was my whole
Well, how would you answer
tactic.
that question? I'm actually kind of curious now.
How can we or how we? I forget.
No.
which one you
How
said.
would you answer that question? Can we make scientific statements about things that are unobservable? How would you answer that question?
Directly. The important part is directly.
Yeah.
Directly what?
So you can measure.
We don't observe directly, is what he said.
Yeah. As in, we can't record it live or repeat it necessarily, but so yeah, you can look at its effects. You can look at I sometimes will use like a murder scene because it's like forensics. So you can look at, well, obviously someone shoved a knife into someone's chest. If there's a knife in someone's chest, like, so it's reasonable to assume that someone put it there, not that it just kind of was created that way. But the better way is with predictive power. So if your theory can predict things about the natural world, like if we're gonna put it into the murder analogy, if I can predict, like if my hypothesis is this one guy did it, if I search his house, I should be able to find more evidence. So predictions, if you can predict things about the natural world, you know how it works.
Okay, so so let me reiterate the question. Can we make scientific statements about things that are not directly observable?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I would agree with you. I was just curious how, because what you asked there is actually a really interesting question. Because like some people might say, can we make scientific statements about quantum fields? Do we actually observe quantum fields or electrons or things like that?
Usually when I'm up against a good debater and you bring that up, like, can we observe things? The debater will usually go to problems of induction, and that's their only way to refute that. And I know it's the burn down the table to stop you winning the game, basically.
And it's the central premise of Kent's whole thing of, you didn't observe it. Did you see a snake come from an apple?
So, Snake, do you feel like Kent engaged with that question at all?
Not even a little.
It's to be expected.
You could bring up something like, you didn't see your accountant steal from you. That doesn't mean he didn't steal from you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that also jams in that his accountant stole from him. You know, that's hilarious, isn't it?
Have you ever seen an apple come from a non-apple? Yes, it's called a tree.
Wow,
I love it. That's actually really fucking funny. Oh god, think about how Cam would respond to that. Like, what?
You know what? I had one for it. Hey, I'm letting you remember it. Have you ever seen a non-dog come from a dog? And you go, yeah, I've seen a dog take a shit all the time.
Taking a Hovind.
Taking a Hovind, a big fat Hovind on the lawn.
Yeah. But part of Hovind won't engage really when he's caught, so that's kind of part of it too. It's like, yeah, he didn't engage, but I got to catch him basically in avoidance mode.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, since I'm doing my my third debate coming up with I think Ian mentioned it. I switched dates with him, so I'm pretty sure I'm sometime in late April. I think.
By the way, big thanks for that.
And so I was trying to think of like what topics to even bring up at this point, because I mean, Kent just goes into this kind of like default mode where he just starts preaching basically. He's got everything memorized, he's got all the slides, and he just goes into default. But I don't know. I was trying to think of the topics that he kind of struggles the most and just kind of like hit him with some highlights. Like, I know the heat problem. He brings up all kinds of wackiness. I don't know. What are some suggestions that you guys might have for topics? Ian, your debate's coming up with him soon, so I don't know if you want to weigh in also.
Yeah,
I plan to do mine a little bit differently. Like I've got topics that I think are rarely heard. So I thought that means he doesn't have a slide for it and he'll come back. If I can get as many, I'm not prepared for that, or I'll go and research it, which we know he won't.
Yeah, that's a win. Yep.
Yeah.
So
or Donnie knows about that one. Talk to Donnie is hilarious. I love that one. Sorry, if you are in the audience, Donnie, I'm sorry, but that's hilarious, mate. Like,
it's his crush. You realize it, Donnie.
So what do you do when Hovind does his thing? So everybody's aware of the Hovind hustle, yes, where he will go on his diatribe and mention thing after thing after thing when he doesn't know the answer. He does this all the time. People have noticed his voice changes. He looks down, then he looks up, and then he just goes into, well, no one's done this and these lines on paper, and we all know the spiel. So what I can say is the way that I address that is you've got to pin him down to the question. You've got to go, okay, that's completely off the topic. Let's get back to the topic. What is this? Can you explain the mechanisms, processes, outline this? Give me specifics rather than moving on to something else. because it's just a smokescreen. That's all it is. He just doesn't know an answer. He can't back up what he said. He's got no evidence for it, and he just wants to move things around. And so he's got this technique where he basically says things that are designed to make you angry and chase them, right? He wants you to chase this. So he'll say things in a way that is condescending, really ignorant, as that's stupid as possible to make
Red herrings.
you grab that bait. Right, red herrings. They are bait to make you grab and chase after. Don't do it. Go back to the original thing and say, that's not a refutation of my question. It doesn't answer the question. The question was, and ask it again. And why are you dodging this? Why aren't you actually giving an answer and going on about all kinds of other things? And it's hard to do because the way he says it, it makes you so mad. Like he says, oh, they're teaching this in schools and it's stupid. And he doesn't do that for no reason. Like there's nothing wrong with his debate tactics at all. Like, he seems like he's a befuddled. He's not. He's doing it for a specific reason. It's bait. It's 100% bait.
And to play off of
and try to keep it like
that's helpful.
Try to keep the topic like as pared down as possible. Just because he'll spawn off 100 different red herrings for every single thing.
Yeah, he gish gallops a lot.
No,
one of the ones.
Hey, beauties and bees, I'm gonna turn in for the night. It's been fun hanging out with you.
All right,
thank you, Bree.
Lovely Bree.
I'll see you later, Bree.
Before you take off,
Bye.
Bree, you better be by my channel Thursday night at around 6 or 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Night?
Yes.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Bree. And if you're not subscribed to Bree, go and subscribe. She does amazing things, awesome stuff. She's
almost to 1,000 subs, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So Snaker, did you hit your 1,000?
Yeah, I
did
from 1,001 to 1,000 and back and forth, and you helped me get there. So
yeah, congratulations. Let me get there and then we can celebrate together. Yeah. All right. See you guys later.
More than some people, Ian.
But I did want to build off of what Mark was saying there, because the tactic that you take against Kent Hovind really just depends on what it is what is it that you really want to talk about? Where do you want to hammer him? If you do want to go more of a scientific, talk somewhat of the science and really pin him down there, everything that Mark said is 100% spot on. You need to pin him down on it, ignore his gish galloping. He's going to use a bunch of charged language and what have you to try to, disrupt you and steer you off and even gaslight you and all this shit. Ignore all that shit. Stick to the point. Point out how he's not answering the question, how he's not explaining things, and then ask him to make it a question like, why are you not answering these questions, Ken? Why are you talking about X, Y, and Z when that's not relevant to what I'm asking? However, if you want to take more of a philosophical route, I would go with respect to the philosophy of science. I would talk about underdetermination of creationism by the scientific data, the fact that it accommodates more than it predicts. And there's a variety of other issues that creationism is going to have. But I think the second one would throw Kent off his game way more because he just has no fucking understanding of any of that. But the first method is I think going to do very, very, very well against him because it will also throw him off his game. If you just ignore his tactics, keep him to the point, and make it explicitly clear in a as least as respectful as you can, the dishonesty of the tactics he's engaging in, the discussion will go well for you.
Man, I wonder if I wonder if I could get Kent to agree on a debate like creationism on trial, and just bring up all these points that
chance.
No, I've tried. I've tried and tried and tried. He won't even do creation versus evolution, like both of them at once kind of thing. He will not touch creation with a 10-foot barge, but he won't go there.
So
because if you apply the same standard of evidence he wants for evolution to creationism, it's absurd. Because we've never seen anything like a god create anything or do anything, or you know, if you have to directly witness it, it's absurd. It doesn't, you know, not only do we not directly witness it, we have the Bible where we don't even know who's claiming to have witnessed it. It is absurd. So he will never ever do that debate, like ever. He just wants to do evolution.
One of the things
he's doing God of the Gaps, and he's doing it hard.
One of the things I quite enjoyed in Snake's debate was at a point where Snake was rehammering, this was in the questions and answers, rehammering the point about the convergence of several different areas of evidence in science. I can't remember exactly what all three were. You know, geology and anthropology, I know geology and chemistry and
embryology,
yeah. whatever they were. There's three different ones, and he said, yeah, but all these scientists, obviously, you know, they've had to pass the same test, right? And so the teacher wouldn't have marked them if they didn't give the same answer, right? As to that's why they've all come to the same conclusion, right? So that's the dishonesty level, dishonesty you're talking about. And then when he was pulled up on that, he said, yeah, but science, obviously science is going to come up with the same answer. So again, another conflation of three different sciences, right, into science in general. So those are the verbal kind of tricks that he likes to pull, right?
Yeah.
Which is just marvelous. I mean, that's why, again, I think there's a lot of issues when you talk to somebody that dishonest that's going to pull those kind of tricks, and he's actually cognizant of the way they could be used to deflate or at least influence audiences that already believe in the counterpoint. Well, you know,
he's an old dog with no new tricks. So if you're aware of what he's doing, don't be afraid to bring it up and point it out. Like it's a debate. It's not like you've got to you know, dance around him or whatever. You can point this out. You can say, hey, like telling me that I have to stick it to one topic at a time and then bringing up 4 or 5 different topics is dishonest. You are expecting things out of me in this debate that you will not adhere to, which is it's what's fascinating about him is he'll make these demands or expectations and immediately break them. He'll sort of go only one topic at a time and then immediately talk about 3. Like he doesn't seem to have any sense of conscience as far as, you know, breaking agreements or lying or doing any of these things. Like he really is kind of sociopathic in that sense. He doesn't see a problem with it at all. Either that or he's just unaware that he's doing it. One of the two.
You're absolutely right in the first point there. I mean, to be honest with you, Mark, I've never seen a non-criminal come from a criminal. So I think we know sociopathic is probably the right word. Also,
possibly. I mean, I'm not a psychologist.
Just to say, likewise, I am being flippant, of course, but just to say, look, he's only aiming his critique.
Leo, could you masturbate quieter, please?
Masturbate? No, I was itching my ear. What are you talking about?
It's all right. He's already finished. Look, the other point is that he's, of course, only really addressing, and he's only interested in addressing his audience. And that I feel that that's where people need to start going after Ken, right? In the way he interprets the data towards his audience, right? So when he makes these mistakes, I wouldn't even bother with the topic anymore. I would just be pointing out the logical fallacies and flaws in his speech that makes it clear that he's doing what he's doing, right? When he said, oh, well, hang on a minute, you said science. I said 3 different sciences. So do you not understand the difference between these different sciences?
Yeah.
Why would you just conflate them all into one and say they will give the same answer? Because that's not necessarily the case.
A car to a human is a category error. You know, like you can't say a car's not related because, you know, of this, that, and the other. A car's not related because it's not a biological organism. That's why it's not related. You're making a category error trying to compare one to the other.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to dumb it down for his audience, though, of course. But yeah, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And likewise, the point where Snake said, "Oh, hang on a minute. Well, this is wrong. You said this. You said the contradictory thing earlier, right? That's why you're lying, again,
Mhm.
right? And he had to stop. He literally stopped in his tracks. That was the moment I could see his audience looking at him going, well, what are you going to say? And that, as long as if you can get that length of time just to extend even over 2 or 3 seconds, you've probably won a few hearts in his audience. You know, because it's embarrassing for him. It's absolutely embarrassing for him to get caught out like that. And,
Well,
I
nicely
know.
done, Snake.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I did
I
want
thought it was
to touch on Mark's debate with him a little bit.
It wasn't a debate. It was just
Yeah.
going into a room. It wasn't.
Oh
even
yeah,
a debate.
yeah. But he brought up the diamagnetic water, and to my understanding, that means it's repulsive. Maybe Leo knows most about this, but would it be repulsive to both types of magnetic poles? Leo or anyone? He must be gone. But
I think he's
So
probably
you're saying
masturbating now. Somebody said it. I'm
Yeah.
only joking, Leo. Just having a laugh.
isn't Kent saying that like the water created a magnetic field essentially?
no, that it settled near the magnetic field of the poles, and that's where like
Yeah, because that's where the magnetic
the
field is
ice came
strongest.
from. Yeah.
He's
But
he's saying that there's somehow the water had it followed along Earth's magnetic field to settle on
Yeah.
the poles and form the glaciers, I guess.
because it was super
what-
cooled. But to my understanding, it wouldn't be attracted to the poles; it would be repelled by the poles. Because
it says
What's
repelled
that?
here,
yeah.
Yeah.
So with a diamagnetic anything really or water, would it be repulsed by both like the positive and negative magnetic poles?
I believe so.
That's what I thought. Because it has a magnetic field in the presence of another magnetic
Yes,
field.
it's a diamagnetic object is an object that does not have an intrinsic magnetic dipole. It doesn't have a north and a south pole intrinsically. It will gain one in the presence of a magnetic field, but when this occurs, that magnetic field is, I believe, like perpendicular or something like that to the actual magnetic field that's inducing it, and so this produces a repulsive force between them rather than an attractive force.
So how would it be attracted to the poles of the Earth if it's diamagnetic? Shouldn't it be forced away from the poles?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Well,
and how diamagnetic is water? I mean,
I have no
or
idea.
ice kind of thing.
So as
Well, and
usual,
the thing
Ken
is,
has an opposite.
diamagnetism is a weak effect anyway. Where there is either paramagnetism or ferromagnetism, those are almost always going to overcome diamagnetism because it is a weak effect.
Well, yeah. So Kent had it completely opposite as usual.
Which effectively means that in the presence of a very strong magnetic field, ice will exhibit a magnetic field.
And I think I read somewhere that it's like the Earth's magnetic field is like 100 times weaker than it needs to be.
I can't say anything about that.
Yeah.
Weaker for what?
Than to have a diamagnetic effect on water.
Oh yeah, I mean, I should think it's tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, the power, what is it? 2 electrons.
Earth's magnetic field is not very strong, actually.
And his argument was that the diamagnetic effect has something to do with the very low temperature, right?
Oh, don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. He said that it was to do with the temperature of it. I don't know. I'm going to take off, guys. I got to go. But
I
it
guess
was
if it
such a pleasure to
freezes
talk to
in
you
a
all.
magnetic field, that might make a difference.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same as well. So
All
it was
right,
Well,
great.
it's
guys.
really good to see you, Ian. I'm glad
Yeah,
we caught
definitely,
up. I'm
definitely great
actually
to see you
sure
as
I've
well.
talked to you live before, like once or something. I'm pretty
No,
sure I have. But
I rarely come on, so I doubt it.
You guys
But
need to meet
I've
up.
got both
All right.
Mark and Grayson, so I'm happy. First time.
All right.
Peace, guys.
We
Peace out,
appreciate
Ian.
that.
See you
Good to
guys.
see everybody.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks.
Peace
Bye.
out.